I was thinking once again, getting ready to walk in here. You've heard me say this before. I guess I still need to say it. Is when I first came to Zen Center many years ago, everybody was talking about Buddha's enlightenment, and I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. And I was quite frankly not interested, because I was just trying to be here. I was just trying to be a human. I just like wandered in from Ohio and what are you talking about? But I stayed. And this many years later, I thought she was leaving because I was disparaging Buddha's enlightenment. No, I love Buddha's enlightenment. We're going to celebrate Buddha's enlightenment. But I somehow calling it Buddha's awakening. To me, it's like that my body goes yes. It's like somehow there's something that I understand not in my head but in my body. It actually even brings tears of practicing, of being alive, of being born, of being in the suffering and the beauty of the world, and of waking up. That like yes. And that like, oh, Buddha woke up with and for all of us. It's like each one of us makes this vow. Because we care. So we have been in the practice period, some of us, many of us, and the Lojong teachings, using some of Pema's commentary, some of Norman Fisher, some of finding what's true inside of each one of us. We resolved to begin forever. Forever. Sorry, no end game here. You're gonna die, but who knows what that is. And then the preliminaries, which I think the longer we live, the more we pay attention, the more we wake up. It's rare and precious to have a human life. Just that Ellen gets to be Ellen. And there will never be another Ellen. I mean, each one of us, each person that you pass, each person, past and present and future, there will never be another. This is amazing. And the inevitability of death. Nobody is getting out of this alive. And I will say again, because I think it's true, that the self can maybe begin to comprehend that there's an inevitability of death, but I don't think it can imagine its own death. It's like counterintuitive to what the self is supposed to do, which is to like, I'm Eve. We can't imagine not being me, It's like, but maybe as we get closer, who knows? We'll find out. The awesome and indelible power of our actions, that what we do, body, speech, and mind matters. I say that with some passion in this moment in the world, because that makes me cry too. Because I think we'll all probably experience moments going forward into the new year and beyond, in these crazy times where we just think, my actions of body, speech, and mind are not mattering. This is crazy. Sorry. And it matters. It matters. And we'll keep reminding each other of that. And the inescapability of suffering. So we all have a self. They're such sweet selves. They're such good selves. And I don't know what your self is like, but my self still has lots of opinions and resistances and likes and dislikes, and it's like, what would I do without myself it wouldn't give me anything to practice with, and I'm just so lucky that I have a self that the more I pay attention, both in big ways and small, it's like, wow, there's just no end for material, noticing what comes out of my self-centeredness. And I say that with a lot of love and a sense that you all have some sense of what I'm talking about. It's really important preliminaries, because this is where we get tender. This is where study the self. Don't miss this. When I first came to, maybe it was just me, but I don't think so. When I first came to practice, we all thought we were going to get over ourselves. You know, we'll just skip this part, thank you. We all wanted to go to absolute compassion. But the Lojong teachings and the teachings, relative and absolute compassion. We need them. Swingy gate, I'll get to that in a minute. Seems to me the language in the Lojong, the relative and absolute compassion is, you could just as easily say relative and absolute awakening. Absolute awakening. They're all such funny words. I think it's part of what we taste and what happens in a longer meditation retreat, is we just sit this self down in the lap of a Buddha, and something happens. Body and mind do drop away. There's just moments where the edges aren't as sharp and me and you isn't as recalcitrant. And there is just this feeling of sitting upright and present in all of time and space that is intimate and feels loving, for lack of a better, I remember my good friend Sue Moon saying big love, different than small love, which you can taste it, but then you try to grab hold of it, and of course you can't. But we drop a sense of our narrowness, our separateness, have a palpable, visceral sense that we're really not alone. Deep sense of radical interconnection and how much we need each other. Which actually I feel like the gift of this time, the difficulty of this time, is to be able to be with the suffering. We need to cultivate actively together this deep ground, so that we have a place to keep coming home to return to refresh in, so that we can respond to the world. And what that is has a name. What arises when we sit in this deep, open spaciousness in this room together, in this retreat. Bodhicitta. That arises out of an awareness of interconnection. Itself and other are just ideas. Sense of love and concern for others. From the very beginning, when enlightenment wasn't making much sense to me, the word that did, which is a synonym for enlightenment or awakening in Zen, is intimacy. That was always like, ooh, what's that? What's that? Getting closer, deeper, no gap. Just here, just this. And we can taste that. It happens in, when suddenly a ray of light on the sun, the ray of light on the cheek, or sound, bird call, or just the intimacy of passing someone on the path, or the sound of pressing the little T button and the water comes out. I mean, there's just all these little moments that are just so ordinary and so close and so precious. Dogen says the 10,000 things advanced forward and confirm the self. Not me pushing the T button. I am in mutual relationship with the tea, and the tea is making me and I am making it. And where did the tea come from anyway? And the cups and the open sky and all the circumstances of your life that brought you to this very moment. And the self has to push the button on the tea. So it's this paradox. It's never either or. It's the actuality of this moment that are also thoughts and feelings and sounds, whatever is coming forth. And, the word I had here is authenticating, but I'd also say waking up the self. Oh. There's a Dogen fascicle. I'm gonna do a little playing around in Dogen this weekend. Really beautiful fascicle called Only a Buddha and a Buddha. Here's a call on a story from it. Long ago, a monk asked an old master, when hundreds, thousands of myriad objects come all at once, what should be done? I mean, when you think about it, just for a moment, just to realize this stimuli that is touching us in this moment. 100,000. How are we sorting this out? Well, we sort it out through our habitual patterns. Is then I make Marilyn over there, and I'm over here, and the air is out there. That's what we put a conditioned view on top of it. But alive. So what do you do when they're coming all at once? Yeah. And the master replied, don't try to control them. What he means is that whatever objects come, do not try to change them. Don't try to make them into something. Whatever comes is the Buddha Dharma. The entire world is Buddha's body. It is the Dharma, it is the teaching, everything. And not objects. And we perceive in objects. That's what we do. Do not understand the master's reply as merely a brilliant admonition, but realize it is the truth. Even if you try to control what comes, it cannot be controlled. That's what's so beautiful about Zazen in a day like today, is you can just drop it. The bells are going to ring. You don't have to figure out anything. You just sit down, you just get up, you just breathe. Your mind does what it does. Your knee hurts, and you just sit here and breathe. Just here, just this. So here's one of my most favorite, I have a bunch of them, but I love this one from Suzuki Roshi, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Breath. Zazen. When we inhale, the air comes into the inner world. When we exhale, the air goes out into the outer world. The inner world is limitless and the outer world is also limitless. We say inner world or outer world, but actually there is just one whole world. In this limitless world, our throat is like a swinging gate. The air comes in and goes out like someone passing through a swinging gate. Isn't that great? Just a swinging gate. Like, no, it's in here. No, it's not there. It's just all moving. If you think I breathe, the I is extra. There is no you to say I. What we call I is just a swinging gate which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves. That is all. When your mind is pure and calm enough to follow this movement, there is nothing. No I, no world, no mind, no body, just a swinging gate. Just being awake. Awake swinging gate. Alive. So when we practice Zazen, all that exists is the movement of breathing. And you're just aware of the movement. You should not be absent-minded. Where did my breath go? It was here a minute ago. Where have I been for the last 30 minutes? The bell just rang. What? In breath, out breath. Our usual understanding of life is dualistic. You and I, this and that, good and bad, but actually these circumstances are themselves the awareness of the universal existence. You means to be aware of the universe in the form of you, and I means to be aware of it in the form of I. You and I are just swinging gates. We are literally breathing each other in and out. So when you practice Zazen, there is no idea of time or space, just sitting and be aware of the universal activity. That is all. This moment, the swinging gate is opening in one direction, and the next moment, the swinging gate will be opening in the opposite direction. Moment after moment, each one of us repeats this activity. When we become truly ourselves, it's like, I mean, I hope you turn into an enlightened whatever, please, if whatever that is like, go for it, if that's what, but for me, just to be a true human being, just to be here. Kind, present, compassionate, upright, receptive, deluded, enlightened. We'll get to that in a minute. We just become a swinging door, and we are purely independent of and at the same time dependent upon everything. And without air, we cannot breathe. Each one of us is in the midst of myriads of worlds. We are in the center of the world, always, moment after moment. What an incredible joy. And what a sweet responsibility. Bodhi, Sanskrit, Bodhi, bodhicitta, bodhisattva. Bodhi means awakening. Buddha is the one who has awakened. Awakened to the awakening that is, that everything is alive. Moving, dynamic. And the great thing is, I love these are the teachings along the way that just delighted me, is it's not that Buddhas and ancestors aren't deluded. It's they know they're deluded. It's not like don't expect to get over yourself. It's just wake up in the center of it. And then you're not so tossed around by this and that. And then our Buddha nature more and more just shines forth. And there is compassion. And there is love. And ever deepening compassion for one of the Lojong teachings that was particularly, I think, Norman Fisher's translation was appreciate your lunacy and pray for help. It's just like, it's funny, it's sad, it's just like human beings. It's like, oh my good, it's like, oh my goodness, what are we thinking? What are we doing? I read the news, I think, oh my goodness. We're all lunatics. Of course, it's them, it's not me. But we're gonna do a lot of praying for help, you know? It's like, we need to know around and know that we're connected to something bigger. Otherwise, it's just this set up against that. So bodhicitta is an awakening mind. It's a verb. It's a verb. And in Sino-Japanese, it means doshin, which is mind of the way. The way is a term used in China and Japan as a synonym for complete awakening, but it's also the way to awakening. Bodhicitta isn't about gaining or getting something for yourself. It's about opening to the deepest yearning of our hearts. Begins with a deep concern for the suffering of others. Which in itself, you need practice. Are you kidding? Awaken to the suffering of the world? Are you out of your mind? But we know it. I always know. Children know it. I mean, not globally, but in a particular way. It's just, I knew my mother was suffering. And you know, we know this. We know that the times, the conditioning. To be willing to not turn away. And then to find the intention to awaken in the midst of all of it. To be able to be present and of help and of service. Because we understand that there's no there over there. Just want to be kind. Want to respond with compassion. And the great thing is, this is the great thing. It's incomprehensible. Is that all of that awakening, love, kindness, compassion already is the nature of everything. It's already here. We're just remembering, coming home to this groundless ground. Suzuki Roshi says, here's another Suzuki Roshi quote, because he brings it back to Zazen, which to me is Zazen is, it's not just what you do on your cushion. It's Zazen body. It's how you live. The way of living. If you are very kind with your breathing, how kind can you be with your breathing? One breath after another, you will have a refreshed, warm feeling in your zazen. When you have a warm feeling for your body and breath, then you can take care of your practice and you'll be truly satisfied. And I would say then you can take care of the world and others in this moment and the next moment. When you are very kind with yourself, naturally you will feel like this. So please, how kind can you be? How intimate can you be with your breath? Practice more. Mother will take care of her child even though she may have no idea how to make her baby happy. Similarly, when you take care of your posture and your breathing, there is a warm feeling of it. In it. The warm feeling we have in our practice is Buddha's mercy and Buddha's love. Yeah. Sitting yourself down and will happen to do that. Just being kind with your breathing, being kind with whatever's here. When you try to do something, you lose it. You are concentrated on one hand out of 1,000 hands. You lose 999 hands. I love it. Do you know that image is that Avalokiteshvara has 1,000 hands and eyes that are moving, and that there's a tool or some appropriate response in each hand. And I always picture, I picture the way I picture Avalokiteshvara is I think of like an underwater sea anemone or something, that when the water touches it, everything's moving. But that's just the way the air and breath and life is. And then we just get fixated on our two hands. And there's this whole world that's alive, that's here to help us. That's a body. There's hands and eyes all over you, over your body. There's hands and eyes and everything. And we miss it because I have my idea about the way things should be. But love it too, you know? Like, things are great. I learned them really, really well as a kid and the culture, and but be with them with kindness, and then they'll soften and they'll open. And we more and more grab a sense of our own narrow separateness. More and more wisdom that we're not alone, that we all need each other and we're interrelated. Okay, so I have a little time. I want to tell you a little bit more about the fascicle Only a Buddha and a Buddha. It begins with Buddha Dharma cannot be known by a person. You can't know everything I just told you. I mean, I don't know it, but I sense the truth of it. I can feel it, but my separate self person can't really know this, because my separate self person, the nature of my separate self is I perceive in things in dualities. And then the minute we do that, and the minute we name things, then we're off and running. But that's just is. You can't, you just have to know the limitations of it. That's what we do when we sit. So we sit down in the middle of all of it and we watch our little minds scurrying around here and there. And sometimes it's funny. But you can't really zazen body mind when you just, everything opens. And the minute you hang onto it or grasp it, it turns into something. So you can't really know it. And so then Dogen goes on to say, since olden times, no ordinary person has realized Buddha Dharma. No practitioner of lesser vehicles has mastered Buddha Dharma because it is realized by Buddhas alone. It is said only a Buddha and a Buddha can thoroughly master it. So then, later on, it got retranslated. And it got retranslated as only a Buddha together with a Buddha. Only Buddha together with Buddha. Only this Buddha together with the Buddha of that Buddha, and the Buddha of the air and the sun and the moon and the vastness of time and space. There is no way to know or to truly live as a separate being, because it's just not true. I mean, we can sort of cognize that, right? I mean, sort of. But there's something visceral. It's making sense to you? Everything is in relationship. everything. That's what's so great about the way the Zendo is set up. Is everybody's on their own little cushion. Like, take responsibility. Nobody can do this for you. You got this particular life. And there's somebody sitting next to you, and across from you, and you're bowing, and we're chanting. And people have been doing this across time and space, and probably will continue. And when we're in this deep archetypal sacred time, it's all happening here. There are Buddhas. It's one of the things I love about when you do, maybe it'll be in the ceremonies today, but particularly when you do like the precept bodhisattva ceremony is you call on all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to help, because you know how much help you need. I know how much help I need. I mean, the precepts are so beautiful, and I'm just a little conditioned being. But my experience actually is when you enter ritual space, they come. The room is already full of them. They sit here for a while. Pasha knows they're here. Yep. One of the reasons we come here, because when you create space like this, it's why when you're in your home and you create a space that's dedicated with an altar and with a zafu, when you turn your home into a sacred space, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are here, and they're rejoicing. Actually, you don't have to do it. I'm sorry, but this just delights me. But when you're feeling a little despairing, or when the world is looking a little despairing, take the backward step. This is waking up. That includes everything. This is not a spiritual bypass. We are not going over the hard stuff. It allows us to be right here in the center of suffering. Because if you think you can go out there and meet suffering all by your little self, I mean, what's your little heart? And we need the whole world and all the help that's already here and available. Then we'll find our way. Then we will more and more bring forward in this world that which we know is the truth, which is love, which is care, which is each person being precious. Without suffering, there would not be any Buddhas. Without suffering, there would not be Bodhisattvas. What would you do? Just hang around in the God realm? The Buddhas together with Buddhas. Dogen continues, when you realize Buddha Dharma, you do not think this is enlightenment or awakening, just as I expected. Even if you think so, enlightenment awakening invariably differs from your expectation. Whatever I just said to you and whatever you think that might mean, you know that about life, right? We've lived long enough. It's not going to be what you think it is. It's always going to surprise you, which is kind of amazing. It's always going to take you beyond whatever you thought it was. Enlightenment or awakening is not like your conception of it. Kind of like person you fall in love with is not like your conception of it. And I come from keep surprising you. So will the political process. So will anything. Accordingly, enlightenment awakening cannot take place as previously conceived. When you are awakened to Buddha Dharma, you do not consider how awakening came about. You should reflect on that. What you think one way or another before enlightenment is not a help for enlightenment. It's beyond our ideas and conception. It's like thinking kindness. I'm going to go be a kind person. The minute you go try to be a kind person, you're going to miss what's in front of you and what's actually needed. It has something to do with some deeper intention and way of being a swinging gate, open and receptive and responsive. Dogen again, although enlightenment is not like any of the thoughts preceding it, this is not because such thoughts were actually bad and could not be enlightenment. So whatever you're thinking now, that's great. Because what else would you think except what you're thinking right now? It's like you just walked up to the gate of everything you know. So don't think, you dummy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's part of the freedom of this. Is I more and more completely. I mean, I trust the essence, but I don't know what I'm talking about. But I know the depth of my vow. I know the depth of my intention, and I can taste the truth of this. And that's where I get fierce. Just being alive, awake, present in this life with all these problems, with particular confusions, greed, anger, frustrations, outrage, and so forth that we have in the world, and just be willing to meet it, to just show up. And to know that everything that happens has an effect all over the entire world. The world is not out there. We are it, or we are not it, but it is us. What happens in the world is not separate from us, but depends on us, is connected to us, is not outside us. Whatever we expect to happen in the world isn't the real world, and yet here we are. This is it. It does not depend on our ideas about it, and yet it could not exist at all. If any one of us wasn't right here now, then it would not be what it is. So again, maybe the good news in this time, politically, is nobody knows. We just jumped off a cliff. I mean, not everybody thinks that, but that's the way it feels to me. But let's all just pay attention and breathe together and find our way together. Which is the same as if you've lost your partner, you don't know who you are or where you are anymore. Or someone you love is dying. Or something's happened that's just unimaginable. You don't know who you are or where you are anymore. And if we think when that's happening out there, in the world out there, over in Syria or whatever, and that's not us, we sit so that we can sit in the midst of all of it. Just breathing, swinging gait, love, kindness. When hundreds and thousands of myriads of objects come up all at once, what should be done? The master replied, don't try to control them. Just here, just this, touch the ground. So here's one more quote from Suzuki Roshi. It's amazing to me that he came over from Japan right after war, World War II, could hardly speak English. And because he could hardly speak English, and I think probably a lot because he didn't know who we were. I mean, he just sort of thought Westerners were more open probably than where he had come from. He just was willing to just kind of experiment with the language and to this enormous creativity in what he said that resonates across time. Whether your practice is good or bad, Brings it right back here. You think you got this? Good. Think you got it? Oh, good. Was that a good period of sunset? Was that a bad period of sunset? How's it going? Whether your practice is good or bad, if you sit, I'm sure you will change. I'm sure it will change and you will change. That's called faith. This is a faith practice. In faith that I am Buddha, I practice Buddha's way. In faith that I am Buddha, I sit here with all of you. In faith that the whole world is Buddha's body, I bow and I practice. I'm not saying I do it along with all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas across time and space and all of you. There's a faith practice in this. Says the old students, who have been sitting for many years, we do this thing. I remember there was a certain place that one never knows what we're projecting, but I think because a lot of us showed up thinking we were going to get enlightened, and after about 10 years, it looked like we were the same old, and this is my language, I hope you'll excuse me. I mean, we were just the same old dope-cops, it's like we got discouraged and people left and did something else. I've been sitting for 10 years. Wasn't what I thought it was going to be. The old students, who have been sitting for many years, I think know this fact and see the changes others have made. That's what happens when you stay. That's what happens in Sangha. You can see same old person and there's something different that happens. Really beautiful gift we give each other. So day by day, without having big ambition, just to sit is enough. Come in, bow at the doorway of the door in your home, bow, breathing in and out, keep coming back. Don't be involved in hasty, idea, and then he laughs. I love it that he laughed a lot. You've been sitting for 3 years, but nothing happened, you may say, but a great thing happened already. That he sat for 3 years is big, and then he is a big change. Just that you wander into this retreat. And you stay for the whole retreat. That's already really, really big. But it's not what you thought. It's maybe you still think you're the same old Dummkopf. No. And you are, and you are. It just gets tenderer and funnier and sadder. And Suzuki Roshi says here it's a loud laugh. He laughs really hard. That is also already a big change, that you don't give up the sitting. You don't give up practice. But then he says, but then you complain. But that's all right. Sometimes it's good to complain too. It's like he's got it covered. It's like he's seen it all. So Buddha, awakening under the Bodhi tree, didn't give up. We're going to celebrate Buddha's awakening this afternoon. He didn't give up. He tried all of the different things that were being taught in his day, and it just felt like not that. And then when he finally almost died because he was starving to death because somebody said, well, that's what you should do, that'll do it. And then that wasn't working, and then a milkmaid gave him something to drink, and then the people who'd been with him practicing austerities with him turned on him because he was not doing the right thing. But the Buddha just kept going, didn't give up. And the Buddha sat down on the earth. So simple, it's so moving. Just sat down on the earth under a Bodhi tree. And he touched the earth and he said, I just vowed to be here, to wake up with and for all beings. That's my vow. And I don't think he knew what he was doing. But everything in his body knew what he was doing. We do it because we love, we care, we have no choice, you're really listening. And the practice we are already doing, that practice is the expression of our awakening right now. It's exactly the practice being practiced by the awakening that is you, beyond your conception and beyond your knowing. So our job is to just be awake to what's right here. To study all of our delusions and our ideas and our thoughts about what it is and what it isn't. Stay with it with kindness, to stay with our breath with kindness. We do it together. It's a practice of Buddhas together with Buddhas, and it's beyond our knowing. And I've always loved the image. Sometimes you can do this or you can peek. Sometimes I peek. You're supposed to keep your eyes down. You're not supposed to look around. Oh, please do all the right things. But then sometimes you walk in the room, maybe a little late from Keen or whatever, or maybe doing service. And you just can't believe that it's these ordinary people doing these extraordinary things. It's like it said 16-foot tall Buddhas. And it's like you walk in a room and everybody's sitting meditating. I think this is a room of 16-foot tall Buddhas. Golden Buddhas breathing in and out the whole world. And then your practice encourages my practice, and my practice encourages you. So there's work to do, and we don't know how to do it, and yet something's going on, and we don't know what it is. Wasn't that a great talk? Sorry. Just by sitting and settling on our cushion and connecting to this deep, unfathomable, swinging gate reality, something that we all already are. It's Buddha's work, Bodhisattva work, and it's already happening. And each of us has our own particular way of expressing it. And we need to share that expression. Just being you. Suzuki Roshi said, we don't all wear the same thing or all in black, but he said something about how, when everybody's walking around, you just see the particular, you just see that person, but there's something about when everybody sits in here in these forms, I forgot. Is that's when you see the true nature of each person. And it's being expressed exactly as Anne being Anne, sitting in her chair exactly the way she sits in her chair. That's Buddha Anne, or Jerry, or Leslie. And that's how much we need each other. And the birds being, each particular bird being completely what it is, where it is in that moment. And the bamboo isn't trying to be the dahlia, and everything really is perfect just as it is. And in Suzuki Roshi's words, it could use a little improvement, and so could we. Meaning, not nature, not the basic essence of things, but we practice to wake up to what already is. And in doing that, we are helping and awakening the whole world. And deepening our capacity just to stay. And be tenderized. And to hear the cries of the world. And to notice when we get scared and we're just back to our two little hands holding on really tight. And then we open. And it's this swinging gate alive. body of mind, which is our true essence. Oh, I'm really sorry I didn't tell you anything. But I really trust in retreat, but I don't have to tell you anything because the words, the teaching, Dogen's words, Suzuki Roshi's words, and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it's all here. And that's what we're just going to keep giving ourselves to over and over and over again. And that is, I think it brings great joy in the world, right in the midst of the sorrow and the suffering. So good for us. Okay. Now you guys get to just sit on your cushions and suffer and wake up. May our intention be willing and I did the right one. Yeah. Yeah. May our intention be willing and to every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become. Get to the standing, please now.